One of the more underappreciated quarterbacks in college football after 4 years at Stanford, now with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're talking, of course, Kevin Hogan, and we're breaking down the positional units one by one. We've made our way to the Pac-12 champion Stanford Cardinal. Bring in Don King from Last Word on Sports and also Nick Dempsey from Rule of Tree to help us sort out a quarterback competition this fall. Gentlemen, always appreciate the time. Don, you've been a stranger. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing just fine. I would like for you guys to kind of put in perspective Kevin Hogan's contributions there at Stanford. This guy went to 3 Rose Bowls, took this team to 3 Pac-12 championship games, threw 75 touchdown passes. Really a stellar career out of this kid, Don.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm here in my office, darkened. It looks like I'm in an undisclosed location, and I'm like a secret informant on 60 Minutes who doesn't want his identity revealed. But it's really me. Yeah, Kevin Hogan has had one of the great careers in Stanford football history, quarterback or any other position, and he's the winningest quarterback ever. He's the only Stanford quarterback to win 2 Rose Bowls, the only Stanford quarterback to start 3. It's been really, really impressive for him, and oddly, I think he's underappreciated. The kid was picked in the 5th round because they didn't like his delivery and looked rather Tebow-esque and, didn't necessarily project like a quick enough release. But last season, his accuracy was outstanding, and I honestly think he's going to be a better player at the next level than he's given credit for. The kid's got the grit, he's got the intelligence, he's started for 4 years in a pro-style offense and knows how to read defenses and has found the ability to extend plays using his legs on 3rd down and gets the ball to where it needs to be, whether it's pretty or not. So, he'll be missed. It's going to be a void to fill him. There's a lot of talent coming up, but almost zero experience. So that's going to make for an interesting season.
Nick, very difficult to find somebody who hasn't won a national championship. Obviously, once you win that national title as a quarterback in college football, that kind of elevates you to a different category, regardless of how good you really are truly on the field. But about as good a quarterback who hasn't won a national championship in the BCS era.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail right on the head. I don't know who else has had that much sustained success, period. Yet, let alone did it without winning a national championship. Nowadays, you get a guy maybe is around for 2 seasons,
yep,
and then he's gone, either graduate transfer, go to the pros, whatever. I think Don said it best: pro-style offense. I think that's a really underrated thing for a quarterback headed into the NFL draft or headed into the NFL. So many college offenses now, it's just first read run. So they'll spread them out, get the fastest, best receivers they can get. They'll give them the play at the line of scrimmage. The coaches will send it in. The quarterback's making one decision. Is the guy you wanted to throw to open right away? If not, run. And that works well when defenses are only allowed to prepare 15 hours a week to stop it. It's an abject disaster in the NFL when they can put in 60, 80 hours, however many hours they want to prepare for you, and all of a sudden you're no longer the fastest guy in the field. So to have a quarterback who can come in, make decisions, has that experience, has a playbook that is probably comparable in complexity to an NFL playbook, and he has mastered it, I think says a lot. That's where he's going to get his opportunities. He might not be Joe Montana or Tom Brady or anything, but he might be the guy who can just move an offense, knows how to read a defense, and keep the chains going. I think that could be huge. Now he's sitting behind, I think, a fairly decent quarterback with the Chiefs, maybe. I don't know. So maybe he's not going to get his reps. But I think he could be the surprise out of this draft. I really do. The other thing I could say for the guy, and this might not mean much to folks outside of Stanford, but this guy started as a freshman. That doesn't happen with David Shaw. Like, he really doesn't want to do that. He likes to work them in slow, except for quarterbacks, because you can't keep switching them in. Christian McCaffrey didn't start as a freshman. Bryce Love didn't start as a freshman. I don't believe Andrew Luck started as a freshman.
Luck redshirted.
Redshirted.
So did Hogan. So
okay.
Hogan was a redshirt freshman when he started mid-season, but still.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Got the full 4 years as a starter, but still, it's impressive.
It doesn't happen often. Shaw doesn't like to do that. In fact, now that I think about it, if those two, if Luck and Hogan had not redshirted, I highly doubt they would have started as freshmen. But still, to stick around 4 years to get worked in your freshman year or your redshirt freshman year, that's insane. That just does not happen. You have to be a really special player, and this kid probably at 19 pulled that off, and he's been working hard for 4 years since then. I think it could really be a surprise, and I'm pulling for him. Maybe he can get a faster delivery working with an NFL quarterback coach, but I'm excited about his chances. I really am.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to unseat Alex Smith anytime soon at Kansas City, but I think you've started a research project for me, Nick, in regards to freshman quarterback who have won a Rose Bowl. Not a whole lot of those guys walking around on the streets.
Not at all.
Right, Don, we got Keller Chryst, the highest-rated quarterback recruit ever in the history of Stanford football. We saw him for a brief few attempts, specifically in that Arizona game, hit 4 of 4. I was going down the recruiting rankings the year he came out, and he was rated higher than current quarterback or projected starters at the likes of Texas, LSU, Northwestern, Kentucky, Oklahoma State, just to name a few. So this kid can play, and he was rated higher than guys that are projected starters at winning programs.
Yeah, I think he's legit. I think he's going to be good. I think he is almost sure to lay an egg sometime early when facing live bullets for the first time at the Division I level. Most people do. It's really brutal coming out of the gates. I remember, I think it was Luck's second or third start at Wake Forest, and Stanford wound up losing that game. I mean, it happens to folks who are even historically good. Hogan was an exception, reeling off 7 wins in a row as he entered the lineup during his redshirt freshman season. But it's a really tough thing to do. And also, he had been worked into gameplay during the year and didn't take over as a starter until midseason. So he had that going for him too. So it's not a layup for Chryst. I do think he's going to be the guy. I think he and Burns played relatively even from everything we've seen and heard during spring ball. During the spring game, they seem to play relatively even. And I think you have to say the tie goes to the guy who's A, younger, and B, even though they're almost identical physically, Chryst does seem to have the slightly stronger arm, and he's still got that same level of physicality, and he can run, and he'll lay the leather if he gets a chance to block you too, as he showed in some of his spot game action during last season. So I don't think it would be a disaster by any means if Burns were the guy, but I think Chryst, with that extra year of eligibility, if it's a tie or if it's even really close, I think you got to go with the younger kid, and I think that's what's going to happen.
So, yeah, Nick, we've got Chryst, we've got Ryan Burns, who Don alludes to, coming out of Virginia as the 12th-rated pro-style quarterback in his recruited season. We going 80-20 on the odds here that Chryst wins this thing?
80 might be a little bit strong. And you know what? Let's play. I know hindsight's 20/20, but if we're looking back, Hogan was the younger guy, probably just as talented, and Shaw went with Nunez for a very short period of time, relatively speaking. So I don't want to say 80-20. I think that's a bit strong. I would say right now like 65-35 probably Burns. I think Don makes a good point. He'll probably drop an egg early. That's not a pleasant schedule to start off with K-State and USC, and I forget the next 2 games. But
I think is 4th. That's a tough one. In Seattle, that's going to be brutal.
They got the Bruins, in week 3 too, and then they go up to so it's a tough first month for them. Burns, I believe, Chryst did start off a little bit slow in the spring game, but once he found his rhythm, he looked fine.
He did.
Burns, on the other hand, I think was fairly steady the entire way through. I don't think either one of them did anything that made you go, holy crap, that's the guy. Just shut it down now. But, so I like what Don said. If it's close, go with the younger guy. If both guys got to first at the same time, tie goes to the one with a longer future, I guess. But 80-20 is a bit strong just because I think I think David Shaw is having a little maybe too much fun being opaque about what he's doing with this. He did an interview where he said the last time we did one of these, I made a lot of mistakes and was being too forthcoming about information about the quarterback race, so I'm going to shut that down. So I think 80's strong. I would say 65, but it's a long, long summer. So
that presumes health for both of them all the way.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff could happen. We'll see. But I think all things equal, I think it'll be Chryst.
If kickoff were tomorrow, 65, maybe 70 Chryst.
And we're getting reports out of Stanford camp that they're very excited about some kid in the backfield that they may give the ball to a little bit that has some shake and bake to him that can make some moves and might be able to help in the running game. So Stanford might be able to go back to that Stanford Cardinal 20 pass attempts per game might be the formula.
I went to bed before all of his games last year, so I didn't see that good run.
Oh, I didn't know you were a Heisman voter. That's awesome, Don.
Exactly.
Good for you, buddy.
Don, before we wrap this thing up, I made the comment to Nick that I had to jump on Twitter right before we came on because I was knocking through the Stanford positions, and I didn't obviously need to look at McCaffrey, but just came by his name, and I was irate enough still months later as a non-Stanford guy to jump on Twitter and say, and this guy didn't win the Heisman. Can somebody explain this to me?
Yeah, I still don't understand it.
Don, if I were in your position, I think I'd be on Twitter every day during the entire off season making some kind of complaint or comment or gripe about this injustice. It's incredible.
I haven't been shy. I've been known to do that in a Facebook message board or two and on Twitter. I've been known to state my case. And, again, you break a Barry Sanders record that had stood for a quarter of a century, and you win the AP Offensive Player of the Year, and you don't win the Heisman, it just doesn't feel right. But, he's a great kid. He's a great player. He's a great leader. Plenty of hardware already. I would be stunned if he doesn't have more hardware by the time he wraps this thing all up. I don't know that he's going to get the number of carries and have as many all-purpose yards this year as last. Two reasons for, his health and protection and long-term viability. And secondly, because the kid backing him up might be the second or third best running back in the entire Pac-12 conference. I mean, Bryce Love during the spring game was unbelievable. That kid is electric. So I think he's going to get his touches and get some opportunities, and I think we're going to see them in the backfield together, which could be a lot of fun and strike fear in some people. But I also think there's going to be a little more judiciousness, despite probably a little more conservatism in the playbook this year to take pressure off whoever becomes the first-time starter at quarterback. But I think that kid Love is going to get his chances too, and I'm looking for great things from him in addition to another outstanding year from Christian McCaffrey.
So it's a poor hosting job on my part taking us down the running back path. This is the quarterback segment. I think we've wrapped it up with Chryst, Burns. We give the edge to Chryst in the August camp as we set it up for Stanford at quarterback. All right, Don King from Last Word on Sports, Nick Dempsey from Rule of Tree helping us break down the Cardinal at quarterback. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.